Hey guys, I just got a couple quick tips, changing quick struts on the front of this Audi Q3 2016. So if it's anything like mine, it's unpleasant. Now, first of all, this style of quick strut, how it goes into the bore of the knuckle, very, very ugly trying to get that out. I used a big air hammer, eventually get it out, spray it, work back and forth. You can kind of get it. Sometimes if you, let's try and get this light up here. If you put a chisel back there, spread that just a little bit, then you know what, that might help. On this note, with the pinch bolt, if you're doing this job, expect, crap, where did that go? There we go. If you're doing this job, expect for these pinch bolts to be nasty. This thing will have zero structural integrity left, or next to none. So we got some new ones. Good idea to have those just in case, because you don't want to put that back in, trust me. So a couple other things to note. Anytime I do anything like this, I always want to limit the ability of a axle to pull out of the inner joint. So I take the bolt off, or the nut. This is a bolt. It is a 12.24 mil. I don't have a 12.24 mil socket, but I got a 15/16 socket. This 12 point works just fine on these. That is a torque to yield bolt, so you are supposed to change it. You know, push this out so that way you're not putting all that strain on that axle. Another thing to note, yours will probably be similar to mine, especially if you undo the tie rod end. I always undo these because I got a special tool. This guy right here, everyone's got kind of one of these. They just work so well. So it's so quick and easy for me to remove a tie rod. I take it out of the way because it opens everything up. Now, the thing you want to note as well, the strut, the lower control arm will hang a lot, so be prepared for that. Have something to steady this on, because otherwise you can be pulling so hard on your brake line or your wheel speed sensor line, or you know, your brake pad wear sensor line. So be prepared for that. You know, of course, like any strut, no way I was getting those sway bar links off, so I just cut the bottom end, left it attached to the old strut. Now, there is a dumb design on these struts, at least what I think is a dumb design. So hopefully you guys can see that. Okay, so that's basically a captured nut. It is not captured very well, if you can see in there. The inner one, get that down. Okay, where was I? So as you can see, hopefully you can see, this right here is the nut. This would be captured against the old strut, and the rest of that bolt that sticks through is super rusty. So of course, when I went to pull the bolt out a little bit, it caught up on that rust, and then the nut starts spinning. And the way that this is in there, because of course it's the back one, you can't really get a socket in there because it's too close to the body of the strut. I tried jamming a pry bar in there, but again, the bolt is so rusty. You would have to hold that nut really well. So the only option I had really was cutting it. Okay, so one last thing I want to mention. I'm going to put this back together. The sway bar on the other side is hitting the control arm, so we can't go down any further. The axle is hitting this, so we can't get the angles to get this side in there, because I want to tighten up those bolts up there. I don't want to touch that again for the strut. So best thing to do, 16 mil nuts that hold the lower ball joint assembly to the control arm. So we'll undo that. That way we can maneuver the whole knuckle assembly onto here and fight with the axle. That part sucks as well. Yeah. And then also when you go to try and put it in, put some grease on here and it will help you slide this up in there, and then look in here. If you see any obvious rust or burrs or whatever, clean those out a little bit. Don't file the ever-living snot out of it, but if you see massive rust in there, clean that out a little bit. It'll just help you slide that back together. Yeah, the job sucks. Yeah. Okay, so it helps to have a nice screw stand like this. They're short, and we can push that up, but God, it sucks. Don't forget this tab. Gotta make sure that goes in the split. There we go. Okay, so we turn that. And then you will get spots like that where it binds. So you just put a bit of pressure on there, and then we'll smack this. Okay, so we load that up with some tension. We get a hammer. And back about there. Put some more tension. Okay, so if you have struts kind of like this, it can be misleading. You can see that there is a line there. Hopefully you can see that. Maybe we're better over there. There's a line right there. That is not going to go all the way down to there. If we look, hopefully I can get you a shot of this that you can see. Okay, can you see the gap there? It's pretty small. It's only got 1/8 of an inch to go. But there's, you know, 5/8 or so or more from this feature to there. So this won't go the whole way down. So basically all you're gonna do, whether you are using a mini screw stand like that, or if you just got a floor jack on the ground, put a bit of tension on this. Let's see if we can show this. So you put a bit of tension until you see the actual strut compressing the spring. Yeah, so we got tension on there right now. Yeah, sorry, I can't do that one-handed. But yeah, you pump up a little bit until you see the strut compressing a little bit, and then go to the bottom of the knuckle. Right here, give her some taps, tap, 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 and you'll see this move a little bit. And if you go back to your screw stand or your jack or whatever, you'll see that you'll be able to move it up more without too much tension, without too much work on your effort, because that tap has caused the two to kind of jolt together. And you just kind of do that over and over and over and over until you see that gap there all the way through. And then you can put your pinch bolt through, and then you can move on to the next side. Yeah, it sucks. It's helpful to have a second hand because there's times when you're fighting with it. What can you do? Okay, so if you are by yourself, another alternative, what you could do is if you peel everything off of the knuckle, you know, get rid of the rotor, get rid of the caliper. As it stands, I'm gonna have to clean the snot out of this rotor anyways. Say you have the old strut on place, right? If you get everything off the knuckle And if you remove the strut and the knuckle as one assembly, then separate them on a bench, and then put the new strut in the old knuckle on the bench, get it all the way down, then put the pinch bolt through and try and maneuver the whole thing up as one assembly. You probably could. You'd be fighting the axle, but you're gonna be fighting that anyways, no matter what. That would probably be a not bad way of doing it, because if you don't have a big air hammer, you know, trying to get these apart on the vehicle, not fun. But you know what, if you were to do that in a bench, it wouldn't be too bad. At least you can get to the thing, right? You could just hold the old strut in the vise and just pound the snot out of that. Of course, you wouldn't want to hold the new strut, but you know what, there's things you could do. You could work around that, right? Maybe an idea. Anyways, you just kind of work your way at it. You do want to get that all the way down before you put your pinch bolt in there. Okay, so on the passenger side, I decided to pull the whole thing out as one assembly, and then I'm going to swap it over on the bench. Now, for this particular vehicle, because it's such a pain, this will work nicer. Now, of course, when you're trying to get the old one out, it can still be under pressure. Don't hit here. Try not to hit on the strut. Same thing too, you know, you can put the old one in the vise, just hit on the knuckle, just work it back and forth. Eventually it will come. Now, most of these, thankfully, I got all the bolts out. It's pretty crusty, but it didn't break. Well, if it broke, that would have been okay. But it didn't get the nut spinning. It did not do that, thankfully. So what I did, again, because I had hindsight, you know, clean off the dirt, spray the crap out of them with lube, and then when you get it, make sure you can get nice and straight on there with the impact, and just keep it spinning. Don't allow it to slow down. And I got lucky, it came out. The pinch bolt is a little nicer on this side, if you want to call it that. Still rough. This was the driver's side. Yeah, you don't want to be reusing these. Not that it's likely for this to pop out of there when you're driving, but still, pretty important piece. So when you're putting this in together on the bench, you know, of course, clean up this bore in here. We'll put a little bit of grease on here just to help assembly. We'll make sure that we're all the way in. I'll give you a better shot. Hopefully you can see that, of what that bottoming lip looks like. Yeah, can you see that? We want to be all the way down against there. So when, yeah, mentioned that when you're trying to take the old one out, don't hit on the strut. Now, normally for this style here, normally you don't have to do this. Normally you can switch these over in the vehicle just fine. Normally for this style strut, doing this incurs extra time. However, doing this method will always be around the same amount of time. So the benefit of that is, you know, it's going to be X amount of time. If you try and do the whole thing in the vehicle, if it doesn't want to work, like in this kind of vehicle here, where the kind of what I was fighting with was the axle was jamming up on this lower control arm, and this little stub shaft of the axle was being a pain. So because of that and a few other reasons, this was being really difficult to try and do in the vehicle. So since I was trying to do it in the vehicle and it wasn't working, I was left holding like 3 different things, trying to juggle everything while I'm trying not to rip out the brake hose for the caliper, and you know, my back's hurting from that, right? Whereas if you did this every time, especially if it's on your own vehicle, especially if you're by yourself, you know you're not going to encounter that situation. You know you're not going to be stuck holding everything, wishing you had a second hand, right? So, you know what, if I were doing this in my driveway on, you know, say a vehicle I didn't know about, yeah, this is probably the route I would go with. And then when we slam this in all the way, we'll put our new pinch bolt through there, and then it shouldn't be too much of an issue to throw it kind of up in there, get it on that axle all kind of in one go, or kind of 2 different little steps, and then afterwards we can get the studs for the lower ball joint through the lower control arm, and it'll be a lot less fighting. So another idea, especially if you're by yourself, you know, try this method, because yeah, left holding everything sucks. Your back just screams away because it forces you to really awkward positions. Okay, so we got the new strut in. Took a little bit of a beating, but you know what? This whole job took a beating. I took a beating. Just stick with it and try not to lose your mind, all that sort of business. Like I said, normally these aren't an issue, but hey, this one really fought me. Let me know, have you guys encountered this before on these? Have you found tricks that work? Have you found some that just were stupid nightmares like this? What did you do? Leave a comment down below. You know, I love reading them, I love kind of learning other people's experiences. You know, by doing these videos, frick, I've learned a lot already. So just want to share this. Hopefully maybe I can make someone else have an easier time doing these, especially if you're on the ground in your own driveway and you need your vehicle. Well, it seems like I was an idiot and I lost some footage. Probably what happened was I didn't make sure that the camera was recording. That sucks, because I was talking about the top of the strut where that mounts up. You don't fully have to take the wiper cowling off. There's a couple little side pieces of plastic you pull out of the way. You pull the big rubber trim out of the way, and then you can peel the corner up enough you can get to the 3 bolts, right? Now, the thing that I wish I'd recorded is I talked about kind of how I got this bolt out, or how I cut this bolt, because this nut was spinning. You couldn't get to the back side. I don't know how you would have done it from underneath that well. So what I did is, this was on the driver's side, so the wiper motor was in the way. You know what, I unplugged the wiper motor, I pulled the harness out of the way to make sure that that was clear, because you don't want to accidentally nick that. And then you got to, basically what I did is that head, if you can see that, I ground that head off until you get that, right? Now you got a couple different options. I do have a little mini 2-inch die grinder. This can work, but it's kind of slow for stuff like that. Especially as these wheels get worn down. Now you can replace the wheel, but you know what? That would have taken some time. As it was, it did take some time, but what I ended up using, just your regular 90-degree air die grinder with the roll lock attachment, but rather than your traditional kind of fuzzy roll lock, you use these sanding discs, and you can get these in all kinds of different grits. And these ones here, if you can see that, that's a 50 grit. That's really aggressive. That actually took it down really fast. Didn't take very long. Of course, it's a pain in the butt. Your hand gets pretty sore from holding in that position for so long. I had to give it a rest a couple times, but it really didn't take very long at all, maybe 3 minutes if I could do continual grinding, of taking this off. Now, sure, I could have torched it from underneath, but you know what? It would have taken 3 minutes or longer to go get the torch, set it up, kind of get ready so you're not going to light anything else on fire, then clean it all back up, right? Whereas this, it's quick and easy. You're done, zip, 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 throw your die grinder back in your toolbox, right? I wish I had recorded that or kept that or had that still, but I didn't. So that's how I took care of the bolt. I just ground the head off, and then it came down. Look at yours. If yours are that rusty on that inside one, count on probably having to do something like that. Now also, if you're doing this in your basement or your garage, chances are you could have a die grinder and an air compressor. You can use one of these, whereas you might not have a torch or the ability to get up in there with a torch if you're doing it on your driveway. So these are pretty handy. Sometimes they can get you out of a bind when a fastener gets damaged and you can't get it off. Sorry for not having that. And of course I wanted to apologize for kind of this video being so disjointed. You know what, we were smoking busy. Well, I really shouldn't have been filming anyways. But you know what, I encountered a lot of interesting problems on this vehicle, and I really kind of wanted to make a video about it to share some of the issues that I ran into and what I did to fix them. Because you know what, normally when you're replacing a strut, a complete quick strut assembly, normally it's no problem at all. It's one of the easiest jobs. Even in this style of the tube, where it slides into the knuckle. Even those normally no problem. So I really wanted to share that along, because you know what, maybe I can help someone out, or especially I can let people know what they can be in for if you're trying it yourself in the driveway. So I really want to share that on. Let me know if you've encountered similar things, kind of what you've done, what you've been faced with, what worked for you. Have you encountered this exact vehicle before with that nut spinning? What did you do to get it out? So just wanted to pass that on. And as always, I just want to say thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.